Good morning. Sucker got around quicker than I thought. Good morning. It is Monday. Good. Gonna be a start of a new day. What a blessing that'll be. Just expect good things. Right on. Let's see here. Get us going here. Oh, goodness. Got my got caught setting the camera up. It's coming up here. Morning, Jared Cook. Morning, Robin. Scott Keller. Good morning. What's y'all's schedule? You back to normal? Misty, good morning. Got a good group on already. This morning we're going to get into the word here. Proverbs chapter 10. We're just going to keep marching through Proverbs. It's a good thing to do. It really does direct our lives in so many ways. You ought to have some great scriptures to go to just for wisdom and for direction for your life on how to operate and live godly life. And that's what this chapter 10, I kind of started noticing how many places it says the godly do this, the godly do that. Morning, Mara. Good morning, Jessica. Instead of worrying about whether or not you're godly, just start acting out these things. That'll help you go that direction. We are to be godly is to be godlike or pursuing God. A definition. It's with a little g, so it's us trying to live and walk the way God would desire us to live and walk. And the good thing is when we walk that way, we get the blessings that come with that. You do things God's way, you get God's results. You get God's blessings. So we're just going to go down through this chapter 10 in Proverbs and hit a few of these verses. We probably won't read all of them, but there may be some in there that stand out to you more than to me, and but that's part of it. But the better part of wisdom tells me always that if I can learn from others, if I can receive good instruction, if I can take wise counsel, then I'm better off. And that's what the Word of God is all about. That's what Proverbs talks about. Follow the instruction of the wise, and that's always good. So it says, a wise child brings joy to the father, and a foolish child brings grief to the mother. Tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life. The wealth gained under, cheating or lying or deceiving or at the expense of others. I try to operate in business to make money. I mean, anytime we're doing that, we want to succeed or want to make money, but you don't have to always, some people feel like you have to make money at the expense of someone else, and I try to never do that. If I can't, I try to make sure that someone else is doing okay, and feeling like I always got to have a deal or get the better end of something is not the case. I do sometimes, but my faith is in God, and He is my source, and so we're entrusting our life and our everything that we do for them. People that are always trying to take from the company they work for instead of blessing the company, making the company better. A godly way to live is that you want that company to succeed. You want the owners to make money if you're working for somebody else. If you're working and deciding on the business deals, you don't have to do things at the expense of everybody else. God causes you to prosper in the you don't have to be taken advantage of, but you're going to work towards making whatever you do better, whether it's yours or whether it's someone else's. If you're working on and for someone else, if you walk godly and live godly in that way, God blesses that. He sees that. Even if the boss doesn't, you say, well, I got a sorry Christmas bonus, or I got, I didn't get a raise, or I didn't get the promotion. Keep your trust in the Lord. Let your promotion come from Him. God will provide ways and supply in ways that are far better than what man can supply if we just put our trust in Him. When you do things in a godly manner, you get God's results, not man's results. And so your provision, if you set your mind to follow God and to allow Him to be your source, it's not reliant on that business or that company or that income or that whatever. You're going to handle it according to God's methods, God's ways, and putting your trust in Him. He sees even if nobody else does, and God will credit it to your account when you do things right. All right, so when you follow things and do things with integrity and do things well as best you can, God is going to make up the difference whether man sees it or not, okay? The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, verse 3, but He refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. The wicked can never get enough, but He says He's going to take care of the godly. Lazy people are soon poor, but hard workers get rich. He says, show up, do your work hard, and setting yourself up in that way brings blessing. All of a sudden, you begin to get results. A wise youth harvests in summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. So these are little things that we just you begin to build into your life. You say, okay, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work when the time is right. Harvest time, what that represents is doing it when get it when the getting's good. It's a saying you could add to your arsenal. Get it when the opportunity's there. Don't sit back and don't waste time when you should be working. The godly are showered with blessings, and the words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. So he says he's contrasting the godly and the wicked, and so you can say, well, I'm doing that. Maybe I'm on the wicked side. I better correct that. All right, but also it demonstrates how to live a godly life. He says the godly are showered with blessings. We have happy memories of the godly. So the godly leave a good impression. And so that's a good thing. The wise are glad to be instructed, but the babbling fools fall flat on their faces. Verse 8, I love that. The wise are glad to be instructed. Sometimes I've worked for people that, I remember one time working way back when I was young, I was working for an individual, and he would sit in his office. He never, I don't think he had any, experience out in the field, on the ranch work, doing what we were doing. Very little experience doing it, but he could sure enough dream up stuff at the desk and then come out and try to tell us how to do whatever it was we'd been doing, But there were times when he could sit back and see something that would make life easier. And if we weren't willing to say, okay, I'll change, I'll adjust, I'll do that. And of course, him being the boss and the owner, you had to sometimes yield to that whether you liked it or not. Verse 9, he says, people with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed. So he says, live with integrity, live above board, live right, and you'll walk safely. People who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. The words of the godly are a life-giving fountain, and the words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. There he goes again. He says, not revealing or concealing things. Man, there's just a contrast here as we go through this whole thing. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. So having a kind response, it just talks about how to have a relationship and even at work and dealing with people out in public. Wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Man, I tell you what, sometimes his explanation of the differences between good and evil, or the righteous and the wicked, the godly and the ungodly. It's interesting. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of fools invites disaster. Wise people treasure knowledge, and so if you're not hungry to grow, hungry to add to what you know, desiring to follow or to find new information on things, I continue to grow in the Bible and study and in ministry, as well as ranching or horse training or whatever. And when I get ready to go into an area that something that I maybe don't know as much about, or if I'm thinking about something that isn't working really good, I mean, I'll pick somebody's brain. I'll call somebody. Some of you that are on here, I talk to you, about how to train a horse, or how to do this or that in business, and talk to them about those things and gain a little instruction. People who verse 17, people who accept discipline are on the pathway to life, but those who ignore correction will go astray. He says, man, we need to have some borders and boundaries and be helped with guiding in getting to the right place. I think about sometimes we're gathering cattle or moving cattle. If you've ever done that, most of you have, or a lot of you have that are on here anyway. And you ever have, like we were gathering cattle the other morning, and it was foggy. I mean, you couldn't see more than 100 yards, and fortunately we were gathering after a dry grass pasture with black cattle, and so you could maybe pick them up in the contrast quicker. And we were trying to make sure we got there was a lot of calves on this quarter of ground, and we were trying to bring them in and get them to the corral. And I was making the big circle and coming around the backside to make sure they were all there. And there was and then we brought them back up to the corral. And when we got them into the corral, there was 150 or so that had gone through the corral, and about 25 that were sitting back, and the others had gone through the gate and were going down the fence. Well, you know what that does is these on this side of the fence don't realize it's just a little bit further. You just need to go just a little bit further. And they wanted to follow those other cattle, but they weren't going to be where they needed to go. It felt like they were going to them the wrong way, but they needed to go the right way. They needed that extra little push, and there was only 2 of us horseback, and so these are young enough cats. Fortunately, they'd been handled a lot with horses, so they weren't spooky, but they were they were just like, hey, I want to go that way. But I kept talking to them, and I'm sure they were hearing, hey guys, you need to go just a little bit further. Come on now. And we just eased them along and held them and gave them that little bit of nudging, that little bit of instruction. That's kind of like us sometimes. We need to get to that gate, but we can't see that's the direction. But accepting discipline on the pathway to life. They had to be corrected on the direction they were going. They were going the opposite way that they needed to go. They eventually went the way that they needed to go, but it took some coaxing, it took some patience, it took some instruction. Now I want us to get down here because we don't have a lot of time, but I want us to get down here to verse 21. We'll say this. We'll use this verse. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by the lack of common sense. You know, just sometimes common sense makes such a difference. But the words of the godly encourage many. You know, we just have to encourage and be willing to say and help those with wise words. But notice verse 22. The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. You know, God's blessing coming on our life builds a wealth to our life. It's not always money, but a wealth of peace, wisdom, integrity, you know, a wisdom where finances are concerned, and good stewardship. Because we've walked godly and been had a life of integrity and a life that was sharing wisdom, sharing blessing, doing good for others, all those things produce a wealth of life, and that's what he's talking about there. The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, not just a financial riches, but blessing in all of life. Verse 23 says, doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. You know, there's times the Bible says, and I don't remember where, but sin is fun for a season. You know, a lot of times we see those things that are the world says is satisfying. But you know, doing wrong, it's fun for a fool. But the sensible says, you know, I'd rather live wisely. I'd rather have the pleasure of wise living than the fun of a fool. And so separating those two things out. Well, listen, we got to wrap this up, but I just want to hit on a few things here in verse 26. Lazy people irritate their employers like vinegar to the teeth and smoke in the eyes. I love the description of some of this. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? But notice this: the fear of the Lord lengthens one's life. And then I want to close with verses 29, 30, 30, 31, 32. These last four verses, and look at what what's produced in the godly life and how the godly life is described. He says, the way of the Lord is a stronghold for those with integrity. The godly will never be disturbed. The mouth of the godly will give wise advice, and the lips of the godly will speak helpful words. So it demonstrates, our life is demonstrated by demonstrated by what we do in life. So you all have a blessed day. I'll tell you what, live wisely, follow God's ways, and then we'll live in God's results. And I believe that's the best way to live, and I know that's why you're here, is you're seeking godly wisdom. So go out today, be a blessing to someone, live out the wise words of Proverbs chapter 10 today, and go get them for Jesus. Love y'all. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Brad. Hadn't got to see you. Tim Heinrich, good to see you. Sean Summers, Sean Mayfield, good to see y'all on here. Jessica, I think I said hi to you. And Mara, good morning. Everybody else, I believe I caught that has commented anyway. There's more than that on, but you guys have a blessed day and enjoy this week. I think it's going to be some more good weather coming our way for December, mid-December. It's going to be nice. Y'all be blessed.